Ready. So if you don't want to show your image, just shut off your camera, otherwise we'll record it. And at 6:33, I'm Francis Gonzalez. Welcome tonight, everyone, to our President's Council on April 25th. I don't have anything to report as of now. And so I'm going to pass it over. I don't see the rest of my board members here, Michelle, Alyssa, and Christine. So I guess we'll give them a few moments for them to come back. So we're going to table the minutes tonight. And the treasurer's report has not changed since, we haven't been in the building or deposited or collected anything. At this time, I'm going to welcome Danielle Domingo, for you can have the floor and do your presentation.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. For just a brief announcement, I know that many of you have heard the announcement of the mayor and the chancellor around the reinstatement of gifted and talented and the addition of a third grade gifted and talented program. So I just wanted to briefly speak about what that means for District 25. And then to let you guys know that I'll be engaging the community at the next CEC meeting for the third grade program. So for those of you who did not know, we did have gifted and talented programs in 5 of our schools. They are PS 165, PS 21, PS 209, PS 79, and PS 32. Over the past few years, that process of placement in those schools as a centralized or district-wide process was temporarily put on hold. One of them was because the test that was normally administered to our pre-K students was not approved by the PEP, and therefore the city had to work to get another assessment that is going to be used across the city in order to make recommendations for placement of students in gifted and talented. So that process was completed and schools are in the process of unpacking those assessments, and they will be giving them to students across the district, and parents will be receiving information from schools around opportunities for students to apply for gifted and talented programs. So one of the things that I just want to clarify for our families is that there was a misunderstanding that every school in the district is going to have a gifted and talented class. That is not correct. It is going back to the application process for our 5 elementary schools, and they will be given a citywide assessment across the district. My engagement with the CEC is going to be based on our additional third grade gifted and talented program, and where that will be placed in the district. Now, for many of you, you know that we are an overcrowded district, and it is a third grade program. It will go third, fourth, fifth, and then third, fourth, fifth every year. It is not going to go third, fourth, fifth, and then back to kindergarten. So it will be a third grade program. There will be a similar placement process where there will be an assessment given and students will be placed in the third grade class. It is one class, and that will mean an additional, depending upon where the school is, either 90 kids or 96 kids. So we have to make sure that a school can house those students. So for example, I will be really talking about schools that are underutilized and schools that are way overutilized. I will be making some recommendations and then really getting feedback from the CEC and the community as to where to place this new program. So for those of you who are interested, at our next CEC meeting on May 4th, that will be one of my agenda items to engage with the community. Any questions? No. Okay. So Louis, I think I could share my screen and share the PowerPoint unless you want to.
I have it ready.
Okay. So you could actually show the video. So
Yep.
one of the things that we were asked to do across the city is to really engage with our communities around chronic absenteeism. And it is actually something that I was really happy to speak to the community about. And I believe the town hall was so successful that one of the things that I am going to continue to do, and I'm going to get feedback from President's Council, is to have these town halls with families to really get their feedback on certain topics. But one of the things that Frances mentioned is that in her conversations with parents, that parents don't know that what chronic absenteeism is and what that means. And then secondly, about how we are looked at by the federal government and the state in terms of chronic absenteeism. And thirdly, that what I'll show you in this presentation is the impact that it will have on student learning over time. So this presentation is on our DOE website, and I know that Louis will also put it in the chat for you. I do welcome all of our parent leaders and President's Council if you feel you are confident enough to do this at your PTA meetings, to go through this presentation. It is really self-explanatory and everything is there, to really start talking to parents about the importance of preventing chronic absenteeism. So we did have translation at our meetings. I do invite you to have translation for families. We did get a lot of responses from our English speaking families, but also from our families that spoke languages other than English. And they did ask a lot of really good questions and give us a lot of good feedback on how we can, as a system and as a district and as individual schools, help support families to prevent chronic absenteeism. Okay, you can go on. You can skip through. Go ahead, Louis, you can skip through that. We did an introduction. You can go back. Go back. We did an introduction of our team. You guys know all of us. Feel free to use this if you want to introduce us, but what's really important is how they can contact us. And so that piece is here, and we do offer for you to share this slide. Okay, you can go to the next slide. Then we talked about our district as a whole and what our values and beliefs are. Our beliefs that we can grow and learn from one another from many roots, and we see the roots of our schools within the tree, but it is also about the communities and cultures and identities that make up District 25, how we grow together as one community, our strong roots, strong schools, how we build foundations of learning for our students, both in learning as scholars, but also growing into responsible adults and members of our civic community. We talk about how we believe in empowering our learners and what that should look like across all of our schools and all of our classrooms, how we embrace differences, and how we provide equity and access for all of our learners. And that is an expectation that that's happening across our schools. Next slide. Okay. We did show this video about what chronic absenteeism is, so we'll show it. It's very quick. It's about a 2 or 3 minute video. So, Louis.
Nationwide, at least 1 out of 10 students misses nearly a month of school every year. In some cities, as many as 1 in 4 students are missing that much school. I'm Hetty Chang. I'm the founder and director of Attendance Works, a national initiative committed to addressing this alarming, largely overlooked crisis that's preventing too many children from having a chance to learn and succeed. When a student misses 10% or more of the school year, or about 18 or more days, we call that chronic absenteeism. That is a red alert that a student is headed for academic trouble and eventually for dropping out of high school. Too often, we think that absences aren't a problem as long as they're excused, or that a child's learning won't be affected unless he or she misses a lot of days all in a row. But research shows that missing 10% of the school year, which can be just 2 or 3 days every month, can add up to so much lost time in the classroom that children just can't keep up. And we don't realize that poor attendance isn't just a problem in high school. It can start as early as kindergarten or preschool. Many of these early absences aren't truancy or skipping school. They're excused absences occurring for a variety of reasons. Even so, they all add up to lost learning time. If chronic absence continues year after year, some students may have missed half a year of instruction by the time they reach 3rd grade. Emerging research shows that children chronically absent in both kindergarten and 1st grade are far less likely to read proficiently at the end of 3rd grade. If children don't show up for school regularly, they miss out on the chance to acquire fundamental reading and math skills and to build a habit of good attendance that will help them throughout their education and in the workplace. So, now it's your turn. Is chronic absence a problem in your school or community? What will you do to help end chronic absence and ensure every child is in school so they can learn? Remember, when it comes to academic success, we can all help send the message that going to school every day is essential to a brighter future for our children.
Okay, so the federal government identified a new crisis in education, and it's known as chronic absenteeism. In its first report released in 2013-14, the U.S. Department of Education estimated that 13% of our students, which is 1 in 8 students in our country, were chronically absent. The department is calling this a hidden educational crisis. In New York State, the state education department defines chronic absenteeism as missing 10% of school days or 18 days per year in a 180-day school year. That's about 2 days per month. And here is the question that came up and comes up a lot in our district. Chronic absenteeism includes both excused and unexcused absence. The idea that significant amounts of missed instructional time for any reason is cause for a concern. So a lot of people say, if my daughter is sick 1 or 2 days, or my son is sick 1 or 2 days a month, that doesn't make them chronically absent. But if they are absent 18 or more days per year, they are considered to be chronically absent. Next slide, Lewis. So we did engage in a meeting, Norm, because there were a lot of people on our meeting. We had about 140 people. And one of the things that we asked, and I'm going to ask for you guys to do this as well, is to use the chat to kind of give us some of your feedback and to answer some of the questions. I did ask that the community stay on topic and stay focused on the topic of chronic absenteeism in District 25. We asked that the members of our conversation listen to others and give a chance for everyone to have a voice, and use your raise hand feature to identify that you would want to speak. Okay, next slide. So we started the conversation by asking parents if they think these statements are true or false. So as I read each statement, if you could just put in the chat whether you think the statements are true or false. So the first question is, absenteeism in the first month of school can predict poor attendance throughout the school year. Half the students who miss 2 to 4 days in September go on to miss nearly a month of school by the end of the school year. Do you think that's true or false? Just type it up in the chat. Thank you, Francis. Anyone else besides Francis? Francis, you're great. Oh, thank you, Sandra. Thank you, Betty. Antonella, thank you. Okay, next question. By 6th grade, chronic absenteeism becomes a leading indicator that a student will drop out of high school. True or false? Thanks, Sandra. Thank you, Antonella. Francis, Alice, appreciate it. Brooke. Okay, and statement 3. Children who miss 18 or more days of the school year, 2 days a month, starting in kindergarten, are less likely to learn to read by 3rd grade and graduate from high school. True or false? Thank you, guys. Thank you, Betty. Okay, and here's the answer to all statements. All 3 of these statements are true. Next slide. So we don't have to, unless you want to go through this, Francis, do you want to go through this whole process?
Let me see.
Because, or I could, yeah, go
I
ahead.
think parents know. I think
Yep.
parents know what their obstacles are. I mean, I think it's just not getting up earlier or, certain different things, and now with having to do the health screening, you need more time in the morning. I think it's just a time issue. Like, I have to leave my house at a certain time of day. If I leave my house later than that, I'm running late.
Yep.
So I already have programmed that. So I have to leave at certain, I think, if people know exactly the time they have to leave to get there and give themselves 10 to 15 minutes for any accidents or traffic, any room. But I think parents know. What I feel bad for the students that come in late sometimes, because the lateness is also an issue when they come in late and the kids have to show face for that, not the
Yeah.
parent, right?
Well, I do want to say what we found when we did this slide is that parents said a lot of interesting things around obstacles that they face. Some of them talked about transportation. Some of them talked about work. Some of them talked about COVID-19 and fear of coming to school. Then it was very interesting to hear from parents around ways to overcome these obstacles. What are some of the things parents can do? And I think, Francis, you mentioned some of that. What are some of the things that the school can do, right? And as a community, how can we help overcome these obstacles? So I think for you guys, if you are going to engage in this conversation around chronic absenteeism, and you can ask your parent coordinators to help you go through this. Esther, this is something that you can go over with the parent coordinators on Wednesday. They can help you kind of guide this conversation so we can engage in getting information about what we can do at the school level to help support our communities. Now, one of the things that I'm about to show you in the next few slides is there's so many really amazing things about District 25. We do a lot of focused work on rigorous instruction, on high expectations for students. But one of the most difficult things that I have to look at is that chronic absenteeism is an issue in District 25, more than an issue in other districts. So we are not as high in our chronic absenteeism percentage rates as we are in our overall performance. So it is something that we as a community need to look at a little bit more closely and think about ways that we can support our students to make sure that they are not chronically absent. Now, one of the things that I want to say, which I want to be very clear with you all about, is that children should not come to school if they are not well. If they have a fever, or a lingering cough, if they are sick, they should not come to school. But I'm talking about those times, and a lot of times that I talk at President's Council meetings. I speak as a parent. I'm talking about those times when your child says they don't feel well and we let them stay home, or if they're tired because they were up all night. My daughter, who's on her phone all night and then thinks that I'm going to let her stay home. Chronic absenteeism creeps up. So if a child is absent 1 or more days per month and then they get sick, then they're chronically absent, right? And so part of this next slides of these presentations shows you what happens when students are chronically absent. So if we look at the fact that historically, if right coming out of the gate, we don't start setting good attendance habits for our kids, statistics do show kids that miss 3 or 4 days in the beginning of the school year, which is when not only we as parents should be setting good habits, but when teachers are setting good classroom habits, then that really starts to kind of set off the remainder of our attendance habits for the year. So that is something that when we talk about chronic absenteeism, we need to work together, both parents and the school, to ensure that our students don't fall into those spaces unless there is an issue with illness, right? And so I don't want parents to think that they should send their kids to school when they're sick. That's not part of that. But that is a chronic absenteeism conversation that we can have at the school level with our parents about a child who has illnesses. What happens a lot of times is that we as parents say that our kids need a break, they need a day off, and it happens more often than we think, and then our child is chronically absent. So across the country, more than 8 million students are missing so many days of school that they're academically at risk. So as I said before, chronic absenteeism, which is missing 10% or more of school days due to absence for any reason, excused or unexcused, can translate into students having difficulty learning to read by 3rd grade, achieving in middle school, and graduating from high school. So even if your child has an illness, if they are absent 10% or more days, they are targeted as being chronically absent. So the other piece that I think is really important for parents to know is there is no excuse in the book for us marking you present when your child is not in the building. We are not allowed to do that. It is part of federal and state law. We cannot mark a child present who is not physically in the building. So students who are absent 2 or more days per month during the school year would be considered chronically absent, and students who are chronically absent on a yearly basis from K to 8 would miss what is equivalent to an entire year of school. Go ahead, Louis. So our current reality, in order for us as a district to build our strong foundations that we believe in for our learners, our strong roots, strong schools across all grade levels, it's extremely important to maintain positive attendance rates. We currently have 4,218 students from pre-K to 8 who have been absent for 10% or more this school year. We believe in District 25 that being present in school is a priority for everybody, and attending school matters. So here's our current data. And one of the things that I think is really important for parents to know is setting good attendance habits begins in pre-K. If you look at our pre-K data, almost 1 out of every 2 students, almost 50% of our students are chronically absent. And they do keep data for pre-K. So almost 1 in every 2 of our students is absent. In kindergarten, 1 in every 4 students is chronically absent, and 1st grade, almost 1 in every 5 students is chronically absent. Now think about what we talk about, where the strongest foundations of early literacy and mathematical skills and numeracy comes from these early grades. It is why we implemented pre-K. We have a very strong pre-K curriculum. It sets its foundations for deeper learning in kindergarten. And so with these absentee rates, we can say in pre-K, almost 1 out of every 2, in kindergarten, 1 in every 4, and in 1st grade, almost 1 in every 5 students are not getting access to those foundational skills. As we go up in grades, the percent of chronic absenteeism does decrease, except, when we look at some of our higher rates in 6th grade and in 8th grade, but it is still a very high percentage rate. Overall, our grand total is 17.4%, which is almost 1 in every 5 students in District 25 is chronically absent. Next slide. So showing up on time every day is important to your child's success and learning from preschool forward. Missing 10% of school can make it harder to gain early reading and math skills, as I said, build relationships with other children, and develop good attendance habits. High quality preschool and kindergarten has many benefits. The routine that your child develops will help them continue throughout their schooling. And it's important to make most of early grades by encouraging your child to attend every day. One of the things that Francis said is, for the most part, absences in the early childhood grades is not solely based on the child. Parents do play a large role in what happens in terms of a child becoming chronically absent in our early childhood grades. Go ahead, Louis, next slide. So if children don't show up for school regularly, they'll miss out on fundamental reading and math skills and the chance to build good attendance habits. So a national study that was done around who can read on grade level after 3rd grade, which is a benchmark of literacy and success in schools. Kids with good attendance in kindergarten and 1st grade, meaning students that missed 9 or fewer days in both kindergarten and 1st grade, 64% of those students were reading on grade level. The percentage of kids with at-risk attendance, meaning they missed more than 9 days in both years, that drops from 64% to 43%. The percentage of kids chronically absent in K or 1st, meaning they missed 18 or more days in 1 year, either kindergarten or 1st grade, that goes from 43 to 41%. And kids who are chronically absent in kindergarten and 1st grade, meaning they missed 18 or more days both years, their ability to read on grade level after 3rd grade drops to 17%. Go ahead, Lou. So why it matters in middle school. Students should miss no more than 9 days of school each year to stay engaged, successful, and on track for graduation. Frequent absences can be a sign that a student is losing interest in school, struggling with schoolwork, dealing with a bully, or facing some other difficulty. By 6th grade, as we said, absenteeism is one of the 3 signs that a student may drop out of high school. And by 9th grade, attendance is a better predictor of graduation rates than your 8th grade test scores. So here's the current reality of District 25 in terms of students, a comparison of students' reading performance, chronically absent versus not chronically absent. So the orange students are students who are not chronically absent, and the blue is students who are chronically absent. This is our iReady data. So students who are mid or above grade level, if you are not chronically absent, 26.86% of our students are performing mid or above grade level for students who are not chronically absent, as compared to only 12% of students who are. Early on grade level, that's 20% as compared to 16%. And if you go down this grid, you will see that the more chronically absent students, the less they are performing in terms of reading on grade level. So you see our students who are not chronically absent, only 13% of them are 3 or more grade levels below, where 21% of them are our students who are chronically absent. So this data indicates that students who are chronically absent perform at a lower rate as compared to their peers by almost 19%. Next slide. And it's worse for math. So look at our students who are chronically absent, performing mid or above grade level and early on grade level. So we have, over 50% of our students who are not chronically absent performing mid or above grade level or early on grade level. If you look as compared to around 20% of our chronically absent students. But look at our the difference between our chronically absent and students who are not chronically absent performing 3 or more grade levels below in math, right? So our students who are not chronically absent, only 9.6% of them are performing 3 or more grade levels below, as compared to 30% of our students who are chronically absent. So this data indicates that students who are chronically absent at a lower rate compared to their peers by 31%. Next slide, Lewis. Now, what I just showed you is our District 25 data, and I think it's really important for us to know that. When we're looking at the significant amount of students, over 4,000 students who are chronically absent as of, in terms of this year. So there are some school level resources that we want parents to be made aware of. Every school in District 25 has what's called a CASE team. Our CASE is culture, attendance, and social emotional team. They have established this team that focuses on outreach and organizing supports for students who are currently at risk for chronic absenteeism. If you have concerns for your child being chronically absent, you should reach out to the CASE teams for support. They are expected to develop systems and structures to support the routine monitoring of school-wide attendance, and that's something that Dr. D'Antona and I speak to our schools about. And Louis Latito actually meets with CASE teams throughout the year to make sure that those systems are in place. There's to develop systems and structures for teachers to support the routine monitoring of possible root causes of chronic absenteeism. And they collect data to develop personalized individual systems of support for chronically absent students and those in need of additional interventions. So one of the things that we had in place are these resources for different areas that we believe can help support our families in terms of tackling issues with chronic absenteeism. And one of them is boosting your child's confidence, helping children gain confidence and build coping skills. So there are times when getting to school can be a struggle because children are anxious. They may feel uncomfortable being in new situations, or if they're absent often, they feel uncertain about missing work or having their ability to get along with others. So this resource for you, and you can just click right on the link or use your phone to get access to the website. And Louis, can you just click on the website so they can see it? So this is all boosting your children's confidence. There are videos for you to work through around signs of stress, reducing stress, how to cope with change, dealing with shyness. All of these resources are here for our families. Supporting children's learning. Children struggling with schoolwork can become frustrated. You can click on that. Helping your children be successful, common school problems, promoting habits for learning, meeting with your child's teacher. One of the things before we leave today that we will put in the chat for you, and I know that many of you already know this, but Dial a Teacher, that's run by the UFT, is a great resource for children who are struggling with learning. It puts them in direct contact with teachers aligned to the specific subject that they're struggling with. Keeping your child healthy, effects of school health on attendance, detecting and dealing with allergies, how to reach out to a school to make sure allergy plans are in place, building resilience, understanding when students are too sick for school or when they can come to school, and how we can manage and support that. And The DOE has an initiative called Every Student Every Day, and there are resources on the DOE website for families around issues of what to do if transportation is an issue, our DOE attendance policies. And so this is actually a one-stop shop for our families around supports you can get and information through the DOE resources. And that was it, right, Lewis? Yep, attendance matters. And then we asked parents to give us recommendations, and I really did love the recommendation that our parents added for in the chat. And it's a great discussion prompt for you to talk about at a PTA meeting. It's, what are 3 to 5 recommendations that parents or community members can make to support our student attendance success plans, and how can we work together to reduce chronic absenteeism across our schools? And I think it's also important to have a parent support plan out there. A lot of parents are embarrassed to speak about their children who may be struggling coming to school, who may be struggling with anxiety, who feel that they've missed too much school. So, I think it's important as parent leaders to maybe offer a parent support and outreach to each other to say, like, I've had that issue too, or here are some ways that we want to help you. I think parents very often engage with the school, but I also know as myself as a parent, sometimes I like to speak to another parent before I engage with the school. So I do encourage all of you to take advantage of this tool. Should you need support, please feel free to reach out to us at the district office. You can always call Esther or Francis, and we're here to help you with that. And thank you, Francis, for allowing us to present this tonight.
Thank you, Danielle. Does anybody have any questions for Danielle about this presentation?
Please have a question.
All right, I have a few I wrote down because I'm sure people are thinking it.
Go ahead.
So how do these children get caught up then?
So that's actually where our case teams come into place and conversations with teachers. And that's why we thought it was very important for our families to know that we have these case teams that you can reach out to. You can go through your parent coordinator or your child's guidance counselor. Many of our children's guidance counselors do sit on the case teams to help our students get caught up. One of the things that parents talked about, Francis, that you mentioned was the health screener and failing the health screener. And I thought it was really important for parents to know that, remember, chronic absenteeism includes excused and unexcused. So when we talk about, we know that there has been an increase in chronic absenteeism because of COVID. And that's why we're looking at ways to ask our parents to communicate more closely with our school to make sure that there are systems in place to get students caught up. Another question that parents talked about was, does attendance have to do with promotion, right? And I just want to be clear, attendance is not an indicator for promotion, because in order to be promoted, starting this time of year, schools go through every single child's records to make sure that they have shown evidence that they can meet the standards. Now, once again, as Francis said, if your child is chronically absent, it's really important that you reach out to their teacher or their case teams to make sure that students have the ability to catch up and what that individualized plan can and should look like. Because if your child is not in school and is not producing work, and therefore we can't prove that your child has met the standard, that can be an indicator for not being promoted. So we want to make sure that that doesn't happen, but attendance alone is not a reason why a child would be held over.
So I have another question since we're waiting. Is there a certain month that a lot of kids are absent? Because I know, like, I when I speak to parents, they'll say after the state test, they feel like the schools don't teach anything new. And so they feel like, they're just playing games, like when it comes to like the end of May, June. I don't know if there's a certain month, but I know that's feedback I get from parents.
Well, I mean, that's really something that we should deal with at the school level, because in terms of me, instruction goes to the very last day of school. We don't, we don't stop teaching. I will tell you what some of the causes of chronic absenteeism that we as parents can control. I know how expensive it is to travel. Vacations cause a tremendous amount of chronic absenteeism in District 25. And so when you're keeping your kid out for 3 days so you can fly to Florida, and then an extra 2 days, that's 5 days right there. And then your child is sick. That's one of the ways that chronic absenteeism comes in place. So there are some things that we can do as families to show our children, yes, I do value and believe and respect the need to go on vacation and have family time. But when we're at school, we need to be at school, and we cannot take those days for vacation time on a consistent basis. We understand there's a wedding, there's something, but every year for your child to miss 5 days of school is showing them bad attendance habits.
Yeah, and I like that your presentation gave them a number to work with, like 9 days. So if you know that you have a wedding or anything, those 9 days have to incorporate anything with sickness, right? That's usually what I do with my kids, and to make sure I never pass those days. You know what I mean? So that they're not chronic absent. Tiffany, you have your hand up?
I didn't realize my hand was up.
Oh,
No, I didn't have a question, but I have a comment. I know that in my daughter's school, they started a box program, and some of the students that actually enrolled in it and are doing it were a few of the chronic absentees, and actually they're going, and now they're on time, because I think the program got the kids motivated and helped, I guess, maybe get their parents motivated to get to school too on time and not be absent, because there was a fun thing that they were doing before they got to class.
Yeah.
So that actually helped.
And I think, Tiffany, that's a great way to start a conversation with saying to parents, like, what are some of the things that you can recommend? And we had some conversations with teachers, with parents. One of the parents said to us, like, and we understood it was a pandemic and things that we weren't thinking about, but she was like, there were a lot of things that made my child want to come to school that you can do, right? Like pajama day and those things that we're not doing anymore, they're really important and you need to bring back, right? So there's been a lot of schools that have been extremely creative with art in the morning and sports in the morning. So those are things that parents should recommend to schools to make sure that it's happening, so students feel comfortable coming to school. And it's not just about coming to school in the morning to kind of catch up, but really starting your day in a space where you want to get ready, and be at school.
thank you. Anybody else has any more questions? I don't see any hands up.
All right, thank you guys. I really do hope that you use this presentation at your schools to really start the conversation about chronic absenteeism. I know it's going to be a little bit busy this month and next month, but September is a great place to start. And we can update actually you can use the data that we have now for September, but we can update it whenever you would want. So thank you guys, and thank you, Francis, for allowing me to present.
Thank you, Danielle. Thank you for that great presentation. At this time, I'm going to call in our next presenter from Miss Chocolate. Lou, I see you're on. Are you ready? You're on mute, Lou. You just spoke for 2 minutes.
Okay,
Okay, go ahead.
I'm unmuted. I'm back. I see a lot of new names there. I'd like to say hello to everybody. I guess, as Danielle mentioned, if you want to scoot away, I happen to be down at home in Florida. I extended my vacation. I'm coming back up on Thursday. So I'll be driving back up. But I had lost my internet connection in the whole community. That's why I was going crazy frantic here. I had to drive up to the local hospital to get some Wi-Fi, and I still couldn't get on, but I'm on. So I just got back. I don't know how long the Wi-Fi is going to stay on, but I see a lot of new names, some familiar ones. And I think the last meeting we had, I was going through the idea of getting some emails for these new people, because I've been emailing out. I have all my programs together. I know it's been kind of wild, to say the least, the last couple years with COVID, but we have been doing fundraising throughout, except for the spring of 20, when COVID first hit us heavy. There was really nothing going on there. And we came back. Miss Chocolate has been back, and the whole time. We've going into the fall of 21. We had a very successful season with that. Nothing like pre-COVID, but we're all getting our feet wet. The spring, this past spring of 21, the fall of 21 was strong. And spring of 22 now has been a lot of schools coming back into fundraising programs. Now, just to let you know, this time of year, I guess we're winding down the season. A lot of people do not do the spring fundraiser, although we do have something that can be done. But I know what's very popular is the Mother's Day, Father's Day boutiques. Some of you I have ran it before with. We're doing now, in the previous years, we were doing virtual online, excuse me, online with a ship to home program for the holiday boutiques. This year, I mean, that did okay, but there's nothing like the hands-on. We have what they call a touchless sale. And this is something I think I could present to you a little bit better in programs that I could email out to everybody. But we still have the traditional Mother's Day, Father's Day boutique, holiday boutique sales that I believe most of you are familiar with. If you're not, I know Tiffany, I see, is on here. Sandra, somewhat familiar with that. 32, I see, is on, and a few other either names I'm not familiar with or emails. But anyway, we have the in-school holiday boutiques for Mother's Day, Father's Day. If you are interested in that, I could still get you started with that. It's already starting. Many of the schools are getting off for the beginning of next week, the week before Mother's Day. So if you're interested in either a Mother's Day and or Father's Day boutique, we could still do that. For your schools that are may be interested in graduation expenses, which I've been doing a lot of that now with the candy bars and pretzel rods, those dollar sellers. If you want to turn something over quick, we have that available. We have everything in stock, products, as far as the boutiques, all in stock in our warehouse. The candy bars, again, in stock in the warehouse, in addition to the pretzel rods. So those could run from 45, 50% profit for the dollar sellers if you're interested in doing something for graduation expenses. That's there. I know this time of the year now, as we approach May and June is the early sign-up season. So that's where I have a lot of the promotional items that meant to be sent out into an email. With I have all my new fall 22 fundraising programs available to send you. We have the fall holiday boutiques again. That's ready to go. We have the frozen items, be it the pies, cheesecakes, cookie doughs, some being the perishable items like the pies, which is not a problem for delivery, but it's something that's not a ship to home program as far as the pies, the frozen items. All other programs can be done on a traditional type of a format or a ship to home or a combination of. And even the cookie dough, we have the non-perishable cookie dough we've been doing probably for about 15 years, which is very well received. And that's been very, very popular. We have the popcorn programs. Snacking in the USA is a fruit and nut, entirely fruit and nut program. So that's available. As I mentioned, the dollar bars with the Miss Chocolate dollar bars. We have the pretzel rods, 4 assorted individually wrapped chocolate dipped pretzels with be it sprinkles, nuts, M&Ms, swirls. In some schools, we do have a working relationship with World's Finest candy bars, but that's limited to certain districts or certain areas. So again, I'd have to, the schools that are interested in selling World's Finest, I'd have to speak with you, or you let me know, and I'll let you know if you're available to be able to sell the World's Finest bars through us. Another thing that's popular coming up now is the school supplies, EPI school supplies. Now, for those of you that may or may not be familiar with it, again, I know a few of the schools has done it before in the past. That's where you would send me your school supply lists, going ahead forward. And I know the city schools kind of late with getting those lists together, but we could start it off with the list you have present now. If you was to email me your present school supply list that's required by your school for each of your grades, I could get that price quoted out for you. Some schools go back with those additional lists, pretty similar, or identical, if not very similar. So you'll have an idea of what those prices would cost you. If you have a complete new list, obviously the new lists come out. Most of the city schools, like for your district, I know you probably don't get them till late May, probably early to mid-June. Some going towards the end of the school year at the end of June. However, we can do that. We could still get it up and running for you for those last couple of weeks with in-school flyers to be sent home. And it's also online. You can do it on the online ordering program also. And even pre-COVID, I should say post-COVID, or BC, before COVID, right? Before COVID, the sites have been opened into usually the second week or so, at least of July. So if you don't receive your supply list until mid to late June, and it's kind of a hurry to get the paper orders in from the parents, you can still have the option of online ordering, in through the first few weeks of July for the school supply lists. Let me just pause for a second. I guess ask if anybody has a question in regards to the school supplies right now. Okay. I think I'll have my email out there, right, where anybody could email me in regards to that personally about the school supplies, if you're interested in doing something like that, coming up for September deliveries. Getting back to the fundraising programs, as I mentioned, we have all the frozen items, the regular product brochures, the popcorn, the cookie dough, the candy bars. So all these programs are custom designed for your individual schools, which, I've been doing that for the last 35 years with your schools, and they've been very successful. I would love to think we're going to get back to a better form of normalcy come the fall of 22. And I know most of you start to plan that now. You have elections coming up. And I know you have to wait to finalize anything, but any of the information I could supply you with now, I'd be happy to email you with. So I guess, Francis, if you could get me, if that's okay, if you could get me, I guess with approval, obviously, of the schools, you send me the emails for the presidents that you have now, or whoever's willing to take the information, and I could email you out all this and more detailed information. We have extra bonuses and be it gifts for the PTA in the schools, for multiple programs. So if you was to do a boutique sale and a particular fundraising sale, if you did 2, 3 sales throughout the year, we do have extra school gifts, you know, starting from small items right up to TVs and so on and so forth. So the incentives are there. Let me pause a second again. I know I've been rambling. If there's any questions on anything that I spoke of right now.
So in the meantime, while we wait for questions, Lou, I just want to say that if anyone has not gotten information from Lou before, please put your name in the and your email in the chat and the school so that Lou can reach out to you and give you the information. I know in our school, we use Lou all the time, and Lou always comes through for us. I believe one time we needed a big prize, and Lou got us the prize so fast. So we thank you, Lou. You're very accommodating. We raise a lot of money through your company, and we don't really ever lose because you always take back what we don't sell. So we appreciate that. And so I would recommend that if you haven't used Lou, I would recommend you put your email and he will send you information. And we're always looking for ways to raise money for our students, for programming, for supplies. So definitely Lou has a wealth of things and gifts and items. So I would recommend that so he could reach out to you and you can share it with your PTAs.
I appreciate those kind words, Francis. I know everything is for the last 2 years, we've been Zooming away, but throughout May, I'm gonna be stopping around for schools that may want to see me. You know, I got all my shots, even a rabies shot. So well, nobody got that one, I guess, right? But if anybody wants to see physical brochures, even if you don't want to meet with me at school, I'd be happy to stop by your school, drop you a packet. Instead of just seeing it at first, we could start off initially with an email blast that I would send you of everything that's available. You could go online to my website. You could view everything that I've talked about right now at misschocolate.com. Real simple, misschocolate.com. So you can visit my website. You'll see everything I'm talking about on there. It'll be self-explanatory. You could click on all the different links. You can view anything you like. If you'd like to see some physical brochures and samples, I will come back. I'm back again with samples. So I'd be more than happy to drop off some samples at your school that you could have for your PTA meetings, and any further discussion, I'd be happy to meet and Zoom talk with any of your PTAs. So
We have a Jennifer Barati from PS21. She put her information in there. I don't know if you see it, but I will email it to you since she put it in there.
no, I don't see it right now.
Okay, so I will send it to you.
I appreciate that because PS21, I worked with for many, many, many years and lost contact with some of the new PTA that have taken over. And in recent years, I have not worked with PS21 for a number of years, and I would love to. I know I'm working right up the block with Junior High 185. In fact, they did some chocolate bars. They did the candy bars for graduates just this spring that we're into now. So I'm familiar with the school and looking forward to hopefully working with you again. Obviously, there's no obligation for anything that you do with me. I'm just happy to supply you with the information and be here and be available, you know, to you to work with you any way that I can.
Thank you, Lou. Thank you for coming tonight.
For having me. I
Last
appreciate it.
questions? Any last questions for Lou? And again, just please put your email. I'll send it over to him and he will send you some information that you would need for fundraising for your school.
Thank you for the opportunity, Francis, again, for the invite.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank
Nice
you.
seeing you.
So this time, we were supposed to have a presentation for like a bullying presentation. I don't know if we have any speakers here that are gonna do that tonight. Anyone? I don't know the name. I know Michelle had put in a recommendation. So if not, maybe not tonight, we'll see if we can get it for the next meeting then, if we don't have it. No, okay, so at this time, I'm just gonna open it up to Esther, if you have any things you wanna say.
Okay. I just wanted to remind all of you that our favorite time of the year is coming up, which is elections. Again, before you needed the 3 president, secretary, and treasurer to be in compliance. Now, you only need 1 of the 3, but we encourage you here at District 25 to select the 3 core members at once. That way in September, when school starts, you're ready to rock and roll instead of having to hold elections. And so we encourage you to go ahead and start recruiting your next group of, a lot of you are graduating, to start recruiting for the next, president or COs, treasurer or COs, and recording secretary or COs. So that's what we want to go ahead and encourage. If you have any questions whatsoever when it comes to your elections, please let us know. Remember that Francis and I are more than willing to help you during your elections if you need the help. Most of your parent coordinators got it. So we're here to help you through this process. Again, I can't stress enough, please try your best to get your core members. For the last 2 years, we've been #1 of all of New York in having all our schools complete their election, meaning that they have a successful election, meeting the 3 core members. And so that makes us #1. We would like to keep it at #1. So we encourage all of you to go ahead and try that. And again, another thing is, I also want to remind that just like you need a PAPTA core members at your school, we also need it here at District 25 President's Council. So if any of you are thinking of running at your school and you want to go ahead and come over here and help us out in any position, this is a time for you to think about it and to step up when the time comes. That's it on my end.
I just want to remind that I know that we had spoken about this before, but your school has to decide whether they're going to have an in-person election or a remote election. It cannot be hybrid. I just wanted to point that out because that will make a difference.
Yeah, thank you. That's very important. So you have the option now to go ahead and have it hybrid for your regular meetings. Most people are continuing to be on Zoom.
But not for elections, right?
Not for elections. For election, it's either or, not both, either or. So if you're gonna have your elections, via virtual like this, then you know what you have to do. Everybody gets a code, or they go ahead and do the Google, which Louis taught us that last time, where people just go ahead and they fill out the Google form. Then people that are checking them could go ahead and look at the list of the codes, and they could go ahead and verify the people that way. Usually in most meetings, you more or less know who's coming, and you and the parent coordinator could definitely, verify parents, but it's easier and safer to go ahead and get everybody to get a code. I want to wish you all luck as May is around the corner and elections are going to start rolling. All the best of luck. Let us know, and make sure that once your election is completed, that you fill out the election certification form. That's a copy for your school, a copy for your PAPTA folder, and a copy for President's Council.
Yeah, and I just want to point out, kindergarten, for those of you, and for kindergarten parents are always the best parents to recruit because they're new and they want to be involved, especially since they have such a young child. I know as it gets older and we get into middle school, it gets a little difficult, but without parent support, the schools struggle a lot because they're so busy with everything what they have to do academically. They need parents to come up with ideas and other events for their schools. Nominating committees are the best people to recruit for that, or people who are graduating out and they can't run. So have them just, host the meeting and just collect names in advance. I will recommend for Zoom elections to pre-register, and it has to go through the parent coordinator because we won't have access to all the parents' emails and information, but the parent coordinator will. Access codes can be anything. They don't have to be numbers, they can be letters. And when you give them, when you pre-register them, you can actually tell them to sign in with that code so that the parent coordinator can identify who they are and check them off. So it's very important. We just want to make sure that everyone who is running is eligible to run and everyone who is voting is eligible to vote. I know that some people get confused with the access codes. Remember Esther in the beginning, they kept saying Esther has to give us the code. So we're like,
Yeah.
no, you can make them up yourself.
Yeah,
It
and it
just,
could be as elaborate as you want or as simple. I mean, now the PCs have, their routine as how to go ahead and give codes. I mean, as for the district, when I give a code, it's usually the school 201, whatever it is, and then the first and last name of the person, or backwards, or or I'll do the initials first and then the school. I mean, I just change it, whatever the day that I'm, sending them out. I'm like, okay, let me do this,
and it's just easier to and I just want to point out, because these are issues that I've encountered when I was helping out with elections to the district. Sometimes parent coordinators thought that if you didn't pre-register, you couldn't be registered at the moment, and that's not true. They can be pre-register, they can privately chat with the parent coordinator, and as long as the parent coordinator can identify that that is a valid parent, they can then let the PTA know and they can continue on with the election. So they can be verified at the meeting, but when you have 40 people at the meeting being verified, that can take up to an hour before the election starts. So you want to try to make it run as smooth. We've had elections, go up to an hour, and we've had elections do 10 minutes. So try to recruit and talk to parents, let them know, send out information of what the roles entail, and try to engage parents to know that, to help out the school. And most of the time they come. I've been around for 9 years. They come.
Thank you.
So, okay, at this time, anyone else has any questions or open items that they would like to discuss? Or it doesn't have to be anything that we spoke about. It could be something new, or any questions that you may have. Anyone?
Wow. Hey. But whatever you guys, if you can't think of a question now, you could go ahead and email us. And we'll get the answer to you as soon as possible.
Let me put the email in the chat. And
I'll go ahead and put mine too.
when you email us, we always try to give you the answer within 24 hours. If we cannot, we will let you know and we will get back to you.
Francis, I actually have a question. I don't know, maybe Esther might be able to answer it, or maybe you. For fifth grade celebrations, are they allowed to be outside again?
Louis knows the answer to that. I believe,
Because it keeps changing.
yeah, it keeps changing.
So before we decide, I mean, we want to do something in our school for our fifth graders, we've always done before. We just want to make sure,
So
I don't know.
I know there's.
I'm gonna say this because we went to a CPAC meeting with the mayor and and the chancellor sometimes, he comes to the other CPAC meetings. The thing is, right now, there's not really much guidance on how to run these graduations because everyone's so busy trying to do other stuff. But they did say that if schools are out there doing stuff that's safe and run very smoothly, they want to hear about it so they can know how to approach it and then use it for other schools. I know that there's a lot of there was schools doing outside graduations, but some schools, depending up the school and the level of comfort of safety, they feel comfortable. Some schools are a little bit more open and some schools are not. So that's where that comes in. So like if you go to a school where the school is not really comfortable with something, that's something you have to work out with them. But I would just, always side on the caution so that, it'll be more, but there's no set guidelines on how to do any graduations or anything.
What about like the scene, like I know some schools would do dances and stuff like that, like out. Have they given any more guidance on that?
No,
Because I know in the beginning we weren't allowed, but they did change. But they still haven't said, there's no clear,
yeah, there's no clear, I mean.
like there's no, like you can't have an outside. I know some schools are having not graduations, but outside 5th grade celebrations.
I'll go ahead and ask the superintendent tomorrow
Mhm.
and get an answer for you guys, and then I could just go email you, do an email blast.
Thank you. Yeah, just so we're aware, because then we can start planning for it too. Like,
Right.
Thank you, Tiffany.
No, thank you guys.
I wish we had like a plan or of that, but like I said, there's got to be schools that are doing stuff, and if we hear about it, we can share it, and maybe they can trickle it down to everyone else. Because I agree, graduation is so important.
Well, listen, I know most schools, if the comfort level is good, they're doing like outdoor graduations because it's easier.
Some
Yeah.
schools do outdoor graduation, some don't give the diploma, some do. It's like I said, everybody has a different. I would definitely bring it up to the SLT and see
Yeah.
what they can, what you guys can come up with together that you feel comfortable with, that the parents feel comfortable with, because, and then work it out. I think that's how it's going to start in this district. And we are a model district. We do a lot of stuff that, that's great. That's why I always like to hear what other schools are doing so that we can implement this stuff. Because that's the only way that if the guidance doesn't come down from the DOE, it's really the parents who have to come up with a way. I would suggest sending in a proposal of what you think would be, and then talk to them and hopefully, share it and with the superintendent and see if we can trickle it down. Yes, Stephanie.
So our school is doing for the 5th graders, since they're not doing a school trip, they're doing a school carnival. And then they're gonna separate the classes and have them allocated by the time to try to keep everybody safer, but it's all gonna be outside. So it's just an idea.
Oh, thank you for sharing.
Yeah, there's a lot of different things. We just had in our school, we had Ali Pond come outside. They came outside and they visited the classes outside, and they were able to see the animals there. So a lot of outdoor stuff is happening. Of course, I know I hear that the tents are very expensive because then, then we have to worry about weather and stuff like that. So that's another thing. But some of the schools have access to a very nice outdoor spaces. Some don't. So that's why it varies from school to school. But I think that this is a chance for us to be creative. Parents come up with such great ideas, and it's amazing. We're having a spring fling where we're having a petting zoo at our school, and so that's our first. But it's all done outside, so it's a little easier.
Cool.
Anyone else?
No, that's it. I don't see any questions on the. Well,
right,
we're
well,
here. You guys have our email. Do not hesitate to ask us anything in regards to elections or what's coming up, so we'll get those answers to you guys. Thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for being
guys.
parent leaders. We appreciate you and we're here to support you. And let us know if you have any questions, any support that you need from us, and we're here. It's 7:45. Can I get a motion to end this meeting?
Motion to end.
Thank
Who
you.
was that?
Tiffany.
Oh, okay. I didn't see the little green thing.
Can I get someone to second it?
Anybody to second it?
I'll second it. Jennifer Berardi.
All right,
They
Jennifer.
want to
thank you.
stay. Everybody wants to stay.
Okay, 7:46. The meeting has ended. Have a great night and thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you, everyone.